Okay, so we will adopt the agenda as it's been written and calling the meeting to order at 1:04. I'm going to read the announcement. This is Mickey Rowland, Chair of the HSAB. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Lucy?
Yes.
Angus? And
Here.
And Jason?
Yes.
And no staff. Some guests. So this meeting of HSAB is being conducted remotely pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021. For this meeting, HSAB is convening by video conference via Zoom app, as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join in. Participants may find information on the conduct of this meeting at that location. Note the meeting is being recorded and each vote is taken by roll call. So first on our agenda is 34B Walsh Street. But there's no new information, no new drawings for this application.
That's not correct, Mr. Chairman. That's not correct.
Okay, Linda. All right, I'm gonna share my screen and show you what I have as the latest drawings.
Because they reviewed something that we changed after our meeting with you the first time. We changed a bunch of stuff. And then we put it back in, but they went ahead and heard it, but they had not seen what we had put in before that we had changed. So we wanted to come back to you with what we had changed that they saw that you didn't see. So I can't tell because you're sort of blocking my right hand of my screen.
Well, these are new drawings. We reviewed different drawings, but the HTC did review these drawings.
Right, but you had not seen them because we did it based on the comments that you had made the first time. And then we put in a large supplemental package, which they did not see either because there wasn't really a lot of time because they were leaving it.
I saw
So
that
if
too.
you want to go back up to the front, I'll tell you what we did offhand. I think James is here somewhere. We took the middle dormer off. We fixed the front porch because it had that weird crossbuck thing in the gable. So we just ran the existing porch all the way across. On the sides, we took the double windows out of the gables. That wasn't going to work anyway. So we put the single window back. In the back, we'll have to go down to the next page. In the back, we enlarged the right-hand dormer by like 6 inches. So there was a thing of shingles around it. The back is not visible from anywhere, period. On the right one up there, we took that double window out. That is not visible from anywhere either. People are under the misapprehension that that way that goes into them is a publicly traveled way. It is not. It is a driveway because the front property lines of these three houses, 34, 34A, and 34B, are actually the back property line of the ones in front of them. So the only jurisdiction you can take is from Wall Street, period. And I did in my photographic package, which is about 30 some odd pages.
Yeah, I saw that.
It clearly shows that there's one visibility between, I believe it's 34 and 40, 36 and, whatever those two houses are there. I can't see it offhand. That's the only place you can see it. It's set back behind them. And so the visibility is just from there. A lot of the weird elements that you didn't like on that second floor are existing on the structure now. We're adding a higher elevation. It looks like it's hundreds of feet long. It's like 40 feet long. So it's not as wide as you think it is given the front elevation. That's really the only elevation that's visible from any traveled way, not even Brant Point side, because Brant Point Road coming off of North Beach is a driveway. All those lots front on North Beach Street, so you can't claim there, but I went over and took pictures from there. And I took pictures from the backyard, which you don't have any jurisdiction over. So you can see how close some of those bigger houses behind us are. So this little thing here is not a publicly traveled way or even a private way. It is actually a driveway easement. And I believe in one of my things I put in the deed. You can see the lot lines run right up to the other guys. Brant Point is over there on that left side there, that big house. So I went in where you're not allowed to go and took pictures so you can get a better idea of, the houses in front of us. And then the big ones, there it is. That's all you can see. And we're not getting any wider because we can't because of the setbacks. So we're not in the setbacks, we're out of the setbacks. And so all we can do is go up. So we're still working on some other adjustments, but I wanted you to see that we did respond to a lot of the
Mhm.
detail issues that you guys didn't like. And we fixed a lot of those. But, I put in
Yeah.
all the rest of those pictures so you can see just how tall everybody is at this end of Wall Street. It's pretty dramatic.
So,
Get around the corner.
all right, thanks, Linda. I didn't think we'd be reviewing this, but that's fine. We can review the new information that's been provided to us. This view, to me, does say that this house is actually pretty visible from Wall Street.
Yeah, just that one place, yes.
In this one place, and it's gonna get up to the second floor, which means it's gonna be that much more visible.
And,
Well, I'm just saying it's visible, that's all.
yeah. That's why I took this picture. I said, there's no way we're gonna get around the fact that there is your one view of the structure. But
Yep.
it's not going left or right. All it can do is go up. And he's got older kids with wives and kids now, and it's just not working anymore. It's not an old house, by the way. It's an infill back there.
Yeah.
But I wanted you to look at this one, go down a little bit further. That one on the left. That
Yes.
was approved not long ago in
Mhm.
relation to other stuff. There's the third floor dormers. There's the roof walk sitting on top of the dormers.
Yeah.
Some of the elements we took down at our space, which is all the way down there,
Yeah,
we sort of, bootstrapped off of that one, which is fully visible from Wall
Right.
Street. 3 sides of it are completely visible. So we figured, all right, we'll just pull some stuff off of there. And, and that's the backyard looking back at Grand Point back there. And these are the other ones that are all over around us. That's the one in the middle, the word to the right. This is the one on the corner that is fully visible.
right.
And that was approved by the HDC recently.
And that's right here,
Yep.
34.
Yep, and so that you can see from Wall Street. But we're not saying we can't see the front of this house sitting back there. But it's no different than every other thing over there. And that's why we sort of figured we'd just show you what we've done so far and, get more,
Mhm.
once you looked at all the neighborhood context. And it was quite extensive. Maybe it'll help, blunt what you think is getting too big. All we're doing is adding about 6 feet to the top of it so we can get rooms up there.
Well, I appreciate the fact that, especially at 34, that's a pretty tall building. It's raised up above the flood plain.
The
And it's,
envelope, by the way, is 27. So we're having to allow for coming up out of the ground because there's no way we can avoid that now. It's not an old historic structure, so we can't claim that. So the
right.
minute we start playing with the structure, we're gonna have to come up, like the guy on the corner there is up 4.5 feet. We're gonna have to come up out of the ground, but not too much further, because when they did build it, they built it out of the ground somewhat, probably another foot or so. But we're still, the building envelope is smaller than that one there at 34.
Are you going to be higher out of the ground than 34?
I don't believe so. I think we've got another foot and I think we're okay. Bracken's working on that.
So your first floor will be at the same level as 34.
It should be about the same level. I can't imagine we're going any higher than that because that's already at the right level.
Okay, so, the HTC has already reviewed these drawings. Let me pull those back up. And they
I
have
wanted to get more comments from you guys.
they have some comments, although they're not here. I had read them from their minutes elsewhere. They were,
And as I say, they didn't see the original that we changed it after you guys saw it the first time.
that's fine. They were mostly concerned about the size increase from a 1.5-story building to this 2 to 3-story building. Personally, I get why they're, thinking that it's reasonable to do this, considering other houses in the neighborhood. I still think that this is somewhat pretty large feeling, and the scale and detailing on this is not well done. I have to say, the windows don't look good. They're almost too small. I think this front gable is odd. I mean, there's a lot of odd things about this design that I think need fixing. It's hard to, and I think in terms of the height, there's a couple of shingle courses above these window casings. That should not be. The window casings should sit right on the window heads. So I think it can still come down in height and meet some of their second floor programming concerns. And the windows need fixing, I think, a lot. In the back, it's a whole different thing. You can say it's not visible, but I think it kind of is from certain areas.
From where I gave you the pictures already
Yeah.
for that one down the
I think if
bottom
you
there.
drive
It's very
through
hot.
Brant Point, it's kind of visible, but
Again, Ramp
I'm not
Point is
gonna
not a
debate that
traveled
one.
way.
I'd like to
So-
hear what Mickey's saying.
Yeah, so I'm kind of done. I'm gonna let the rest of the board talk. I mean, you guys, Angus, do you have any comments on this one?
I have similar concerns. I'm disappointed that the example was approved by the HTC that was 2.5 stories with the dormers. I don't think that that's appropriate, nor do I think this is, with the height and then the dormers on top of that 2-story roof. I agree with your comments about the windows being small for the size of the structure. I would rather not see a building of this height and then dormers that are then on top of that are fully visible from Walsh Street, as they would be in this north elevation. I feel like the dormers are awkwardly splayed apart. And I think that's just to accommodate the roof walk not being on top of the dormer. I would rather see the sills of the windows, being down on the roof and the eave being down on the top of the window. Not just there, but on the second floor you mentioned. Yeah, the overall height and transformation of this from what's existing to this feels a bit overwhelmed. But if there's an extreme lack of visibility, I could see putting the dormers on the south side. But I wouldn't have the dormers go up to the ridge as they're shown. That's not within the guidelines.
Yep.
I would drop those down. I'd basically
I brought that.
drop the dormer down so that the sill at its existing scale sits on the roof and the eave sits down, and the top of that dormer roof comes down as much as that is, whether it's 10 inches or whatever.
Yeah, I
That's all.
mentioned that to him.
Yep. Okay. Thanks, Angus. I'm gonna add like the front door needs better detailing. I think
You want
there's a
a bit
lot of,
heavier surround, Mickey? Is it a heavier surround you want?
yeah, I mean, it's just detailed as if it's a side door. I mean, this should look like the front door of the house, and it looks like the back of the house. There's,
All right, just keep in mind the first floor system's staying, and that's the original front door.
well, fine, leave it there, but improve the detailing. They're gonna be doing a ton of work to this building. They can afford to do something more to the door. And, it just doesn't look like the front of a building. The layout, the window pattern, it all looks too haphazard. It doesn't look formal enough to be the front of the house.
Okay.
Lucy?
I agree with what's been said. I think that the massing, the dormers, the fenestration, I think there are a lot of issues that need to be resolved.
Okay.
I
and-
ask-
What was that?
I just wondered if I could ask a question.
Sure, Diane, let me see what Jason has to say, and then
Oh, yeah.
I'll get,
Right, thank you.
I have nothing to add. I agree with everything that's been said.
The plans that are being shown right now, are they the plans that have been submitted to the HCC last, whatever week it was, or these new ones that we have?
Yes. No, you
What?
saw these, but HSAB hadn't seen what we did after HSAB saw it the first time. You guys saw these, but I wanted HSAB to see had we progressed between the time that they
But
saw
it-
it the first time and this time.
It has not been approved as yet, right?
Oh, no.
All right, because there's so much that was brought up in discussion and I don't see it changed. That's all. I just was confused. Thank you.
Well, I remember, if you remember, Diane, I asked for it not to be heard last Tuesday because HSAB hadn't seen what we had done since HSAB saw us the first time, but Ray went ahead with it anyway.
Yeah, so I'm just a little confused because I've seen this and gone over it and I thought we had made a discussion, but it was going back to HASHAB. So that's what I just wanted, would know which set of prints that we were looking at, that's all. So now
We'll be going back
I'm
to
all-
HSAB again.
okay,
You guys, please stand by. Mickey got disconnected and he's just reconnecting now.
Modern technology is such a beautiful thing.
It really is amazing that we've been able to do everything we have.
Well, he extended the Zoom meeting thing until the middle of July. The governor did.
and
Yeah,
maybe longer than that.
see what happens with the surges over the summer.
Oh,
Feels
yeah,
pretty good
great.
now.
Or even after school break or school vacation, they're getting stuff in the high school now from school vacation.
I don't think Zoom is going away very soon.
I don't think so either. I think it's a hybrid is going to be the answer.
It'll be like the flu
Yes.
shot every year. Nikki's probably in Vermont where they have cows and mountains and snow, and that's it.
There he is.
Okay, sorry about that. Can you all hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
All right, I got accidentally unplugged. So
That's because you're in Vermont.
no, it's because I kicked the cord by mistake. All right, so I am,
We done with this one?
I think we're done, aren't we?
are we done? I'm sorry about that.
Yeah. Everybody pretty much agreed. So we'll go back to the drawing board.
Okay. I need to, yeah, thanks, Linda. Pull up the next application.
Is that one 7? Which one is that one? 7 Fair?
It will be 7 Fair, yeah.
Okay. This is the,
This is the old one, right?
yeah, that's the old one.
Okay, so 7 Fair, here we go.
7 Fair is the NHA museum, the concrete building. And I put all the history in, the HABs and all the, everything else I could find on it. Some pretty interesting stuff. And the museum used to be housed in the Quaker Meeting House before they realized that they needed a fireproof building at the turn of last century. And they moved everything out. Actually got pictures of them moving everything out into this building after they built it. So everything's in here in a thermally controlled environment for all of their archives. And the windows they're all Brosco. At some point back in the day, they had replaced all of these casement windows that you see there with Broscos. And as we know, Broscos disintegrate over time, badly. And they want to replace them all, custom sills and everything, same openings, but replace them all with SDLs so they can protect the building and keep it tight. So if you go down, there's some more information below this. They're going to rebuild the window frames in mahogany because they've rotted out also. On one of these pictures, you'll see a notation on one of the windows, "Do not open."
Mhm.
So we're going to get them all like kind, basically, but SDLs instead of these things you can actually put your finger through. Some of these you can actually see daylight through some of the frames. This is from the lady who lives behind it. She allowed us to go into her yard and take pictures. So that's pretty much it. And they are hiring somebody who is well versed in these old concrete buildings to come and seal up the cracks in the building and make it tight.
Okay,
One of the windows actually fell out. There you go. There's
so,
the do not open.
I looked into this a little bit and I couldn't find any, my question was, the windows that you showed on the other, the original, what are supposedly the original buildings, which are up here because the old photographs.
Yeah, the very top.
Do we know if those are the original windows?
Yes, these pictures were taken back in the day. And these are the windows that they put in that building. It wasn't uncommon to find these sort of, I don't even know what the textured windows
Mhm.
in these old concrete buildings. And that's what they put in the building to begin with. And they then were taken out sometime probably in the 80s.
Mhm.
And the Broscos were put in. And I'm replacing every Brosco window in every one of my projects because they just don't last.
Yep.
So if you go back up to the application, I believe I was very specific about what we're putting in there.
So casement, all wood.
SDLs, that's what they're doing. I think we're doing, we're looking at Marvin's, we're looking at Boston Sash, and we're looking at Green Mountain, because it's sort of an odd size.
Mhm.
And they've got a little bit more flexibility depending on which company we go with. Same rough openings, but we're gonna have to rebuild all of the surrounds back into
Yeah.
the frames.
These started out as casements, but they were single pane casements. So they were kind of a different window than what you're proposing. Not that I don't think that's a problem. I'm just wondering if this is an opportunity. I just wanted to bring up the concept is, something that we might maybe want to consider going with double hung. Not that I'm suggesting that. I just want to bring up the conversation. Because
I think that would be anathema to this building because it wasn't built with double hungs and they're very narrow. And double hungs would look ridiculous because they'd be like 4/4s. You couldn't get 6 lights, 6/6s in here.
well, here's
There's sort of 12 lights.
they would look
Well-
like that, only they'd be double hung. So again, I'm not trying to create an argument for this. I'm just this is an opportunity to talk about it. And I just wanted to see if that's something that maybe is appropriate to make the change to double hung.
They don't want storms either, Mickey, just so you know. We don't
Yeah,
want storms. We just don't want storms. We just want them tight. So they're
Well,
not intruding into the
you're
museum.
proposing SDLs, which are
Yes.
insulated glass, which these could conceivably be too. So, I'm just going to throw that out. I'm just wondering if anybody else has any thoughts regarding that subject. Board members?
I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, but I do think that in museums, there are ways. I do think that they really should be true divided lights, and there's ways to do inserts, not storm windows, but inserts, because they won't be opening these. They shouldn't be opening these because of the HVAC system. And they could do inserts on the inside, which would help with even more insulation, but I don't think they should be SDLs.
Okay, so what you're referring to, Jason, I think are just what might be called an energy panel on the inside of the sash, just a solid
Yeah,
glass
like
pane.
Indo, I think actually not Boston Sash. There's another one. I think
Oh.
Green Mountain does something.
Yeah.
Because I've looked at it for our observatory.
And there's also interior storm windows, which is a little clunkier.
Yeah. But they're not going to be opening these.
Right.
We are trying not to do anything on the sills that are inside the building. I think I have a picture of some of the sills. They don't want to put anything else on the inside of those windows.
Yeah, they
I'll say that right
disappear. The ones that Green Mountain and Indo and other places make, they disappear. They just get basically fit within the window. They don't sit on the sill.
Right. They're part of the sash. Um,
I'm going to take a little bit of a different tack.
mhm.
I feel like the concern is about, whether it's true divided or simulated divided light. Um, just for historical integrity within the core district, and this couldn't be any more central.
Mhm.
I would propose a return to these original windows on the screen now, where you don't have to deal with individual lights, and it could still be insulated, but some sort of window that would resemble these. And so it would be an insulated casement, but a lot less visible because you wouldn't have any buttons. I know that it's not what, would be anything that is designed or proposed now, but it is original to the structure and the style. And I think it's worth considering.
You mean go back to the single glaze with no buttons?
That's correct.
Well, I'm sure they'd do that if you wanted. They'd be double glazed.
Right. And whatever that texture is, I don't know.
Are you
It's-
suggesting the texture, Angus?
What I'm suggesting is
No.
to get back to as close to what was originally there as possible.
So a clear light. Okay,
Well,
It looks like some sort of texture.
yeah, those aren't clear. I don't know. I mean, they did. I kind of looked this up. They've made this textured window of glass since the late 1800s. So it's conceivable these were original, and I can imagine they are. And if they could do it then, they can do it now. Anybody
I
else?
know they don't want texture. They want to be able to have light. They want to see in the building. They want to see out of the building. They will resist going to this can't
Yeah.
see out thing. They're not going to do that.
Yeah, I get that. Lucy?
Yeah, I have a question. So these windows are only on the concrete building, not on any other
Mhm.
of the meeting house? Is that
Yeah,
correct?
the meeting house still has their 12/12s. They were
Okay,
replaced a long time ago.
And then, what are they doing about some sort of security glass, at least in the first floor basement, whatever you want to call that?
There's one or two windows on the raised court side. They're going to be replaced.
Yeah.
as well.
There's the door and there's windows. Are they gonna have, I mean, that like the glass with the chicken wire in it, the way the Pacific National has? I mean, what do you do down there?
I don't know. Replace the window and they'll deal with it. Right
What
now.
do they
they're
have?
all
What is
around.
there now in terms of security? I mean, what do these windows look like? I don't think we see them.
It's, yes, I do have a picture from that side. That's one of them right there.
All right, so maybe to answer Lucy's question, they're probably not going to do anything extraordinary to the basement windows for security.
No,
At
I
least
think
on
they
the
have a
outside.
locked door at the top. That door, I think, has an alarm on it inside. I forgot. I've only been down the basement once.
Okay, Jason, you already said something, didn't you? Or did you have anything to add?
Well, I mean, as an archive, yeah, that space has a lot of light. They actually would benefit from having less light, which would be
Right.
the wavy, whatever, glass would help to block some of that. But that's it.
Specialized storms would do it too.
They don't want storms. You can't actually
I'm-
put
I'm
storms
not
on the
talking-
outside.
I'm not talking about what they want.
You can't put storms on the outside. Because the way frames are working right now, they're flush almost with the outside. We don't want anything projecting off the outside of the building.
All right, so just to sort of summarize where we are, I don't think anybody's opposed to getting new windows. But there's some discussion about whether it should be just like that's there now, only SDLs, which is essentially a 12 light casement with SDLs, or going back to the original. And I think there is a good argument for trying to restore this back to the original. it's an
It's a
interesting,
unique structure. There isn't another poured concrete building like this that I'm aware of in town. And I think that it deserves a different treatment than just the regular muttoned windows, especially if that was the original design intent.
Jason, the library. at
Yeah.
your-
Yeah,
this-
I don't know how this building was built, if it was done with the same technology which was about 30 years later, maybe.
And you're
or to
referring to the Mariah Mitchell building.
The Mariah Mitchell Science Library, now Research Center, the stucco portion is actually, it's called the NATCO system. So it's a system of terracotta tiles and steel.
Mhm.
And I don't know if this is something similar to that, but the stucco exterior on this building and our building, and then one in Sconset, one in town, there's only like 4 or 5 buildings on Nantucket that are at least stuccoed on the exterior. But I think that the NHA has an obligation to make sure that they are doing what is appropriate for this, because it is not just that it's in the old historic district, that they're the NHA, but also that it's a very unique building that sticks out because of it's such an odd
Mhm.
fabric.
Now, your building, the Mariah Mitchell building has divided light, double hung windows.
It is divided light, but the windows are steel and they're
Yeah.
double hung. And then
Yeah.
we have interior storms.
Do they have that bathroom glass?
This either.
I didn't hear you, Lucy.
Do they have that weird, it's like what I would call bathroom glass on the windows, that weird texture stuff?
No, they're clear.
Okay,
They are the original windows from 1933.
okay.
I don't think they're as narrow as these, are they, Jason?
No, but they're actually massive. And then we have some smaller basement windows that are unusual in their size, but they're also double hung.
This is sort of a unique project. And I'm a little at a loss, sort of torn between what I think I'd like to see, which is I'd like to see sort of normal looking windows, but I totally understand the concept of restoring this back to the original version of the building. And I wonder if the NHA has or should be speaking with preservation experts about how this is treated in other situations like this. I'm not sure I'm knowledgeable enough in preservation practice to say this should definitely go back to the original glass or stick to what's more acceptable downtown. So it's kind of a toss-up to me.
Well,
Um,
either
they
way,
are.
they gotta be replaced.
Well,
They
that's fine.
are, their business is history, don't forget.
Yeah, and I think I would toss this back to the NHA and say, I think that I'd like to hear from preservation professionals as to what their other opinions might be, like, Brian, losing his last name.
Pfeiffer?
Pfeiffer. So
We also have, I think Mary and Rita are here from Nantucket Preservation Trust.
yes,
Uh,
thank you.
And Holly, as our preservation person for the island, would be another resource. But I do think that due to the uniqueness of this building, and it doesn't look like it's stucco. There are a number of stucco buildings, but I can see the differentiation of where the pores were in this wall.
Yeah.
I don't think that the stucco was worn off of it. Maybe it is, but I think that was just part of the intent of the texture in the wall.
Mhm.
There's no easement on this building, is there?
So I'm gonna,
There is on the meeting house.
so I'd like to ask Mary Bergman, yeah.
Hi, I believe that this was a project that Glenn Bornesian was consulting on. Is that right? Or at least the stone elements, and he's the president of the Board of Advocates, the Preservation Institute in Nantucket, if I'm not mistaken. So there certainly are folks who are more knowledgeable about this than I am right now. Be worth asking, but I think you're right that there needs to be a question of, is this a restoration or is this a repair?
A replacement, necessary replacement. You can't have rain coming in that building.
Well, I don't think
Can't repair
anybody's
the building.
questioning the
You
need to
can't
make
repair
those
the
changes. All right,
Can't do
so
anything about-
I'm going to just make the suggestion, and I'm going to just leave this sort of open-ended unless somebody on HSAB wants to make a strong commitment one way or the other. I'm going to try to leave this open to the NHA speaking with other, getting further advice.
Mickey, I'd also like to add too that they have down there sashes as being white. And I'm not saying I
They're white
approve or
now.
disapprove of that. Excuse me, Linda, I'm speaking. I'm just wondering that if that should be reconsidered in the future.
Well, it's a good point. They're currently white now, and I get it. But who knows what these were? Probably not white, although
Right.
you can't tell.
Yeah, I couldn't
Does
tell.
this
from any of
does
the
match the
pictures.
color of the porch?
Yeah, we're just, again, not real clear what that
Uh,
is.
That's white.
Um,
Picture.
okay. Is there any other discussion about this project? So I think we can move on to 44 Fair Street.
These windows are going to be custom made exactly as they are. And custom storms, because all they did was slap on ill-fitting metal back in the day. And some weirdo thing on the top triangle back in the day, all of which has disintegrated, and the windows have disintegrated and they're leaking in the house. So they're spending beaucoup bucks to have them rebuilt exactly as they are. Holly thought that was a great idea. Because we're not changing anything, we're not doing anything crazy. And we're going to add the pediment back over the two windows that lost the pediment somewhere.
Okay. Angus, what do you think?
Is there a survey for these?
I gave you every picture of everything in there. They're not changing the rough openings. They're not changing the style. They're not changing the pattern. They're just rebuilding windows exactly like kind.
If these are original sash, though, we've gone through this, that, there is no like kind, because this wood is older and it's lasted as long as it has. And Brosco windows, are almost disposable, but everything in between is in between. It's not going to ever last as long as the original windows.
Well, the survey that I gave you, quite detailed, said how many panes of the old original glass are left in each one. One has a lot less than the others. And we are taking them apart by hand and reusing the old wavy glass, as people like to call it, and then filling in with other historic glass on the places that we don't have enough glass left. Some of the panes are broken already. Windows are broken. One doesn't even go all the way up. There are no storms that are functioning. So we're going to build them back exactly as they are, and you reuse the panes that we can preserve.
When I look through these pictures, what I see is windows that need a new paint job.
Nope.
I don't see a lot of rotten sash. I know there's a sill that's in bad shape, but I'm seeing mostly just unpainted windows. The wood itself generally looks to be in very good shape.
It's not, Mickey. Look at the pictures even more. I'm not going to argue about this one. I went through I spent hours in there going through every single inch of these windows. They cannot be repaired. I can stick my finger and push the panes out, and I can stick my finger through half the wood in there because they weren't protected from the elements, and they got leaked all over, and there wasn't anything anybody did to stop it until this branch of the Backus family got control of the building.
Well, so far, I'm not seeing a lot of photographic evidence to show all of this rot.
Well, you should look at the Bondo in some of these windows, and you should look at where the panes aren't even in the window. I can pull them out with my hands.
Well, that just means
It's
new
so washed out.
glazing.
Vicki, I'm not going to argue about this one because they're going to be rebuilt exactly as they are using the panes that are still in
Oh,
the
come on.
Well,
I'll go to
I'm
the
glad you're
format.
not going to argue about it because I don't want to either, but I'm just commenting on what I'm seeing in the photographs.
I
So-
agree with you,
Left
Nikki.
to restore it. There's not enough. If we pull them out, the minute we pull them out, they're going to disintegrate in our hands because that's already what's happening, especially the back one. I guess
Okay.
that's the one that's facing the northeast.
Thank you, Linda. Anybody else want to comment on this one?
I'm with you, Mickey. I don't see any evidence here that there's nothing that I haven't seen before that hasn't been restored. To take the sash out and properly restore it, and that means not Bondo, but West System or some similar structural filler. Everything could get reglazed, repainted, and it's going to last longer than anything that is going to replace it.
Maybe I should take you all inside the building then,
It'd be my pleasure.
because we're not doing that.
Um,
And do
Enough.
not do.
Sorry. Diane, did you have a comment?
No, I keep my mouth shut.
Lucy?
I agree with you and Angus. How many times do we hear that stuff can't be repaired? I'm sorry. My house is as old as this, and this is in a fairly well-protected area. So I think that they ought to give it a go.
Do you have storms on yours? Probably. Whatever they did to these windows didn't really work well.
Well, they
Slap
can
them up.
improve the protection. They can put on better storms. And they obviously didn't protect them very well in the past, but I think the technology is there to do it in the future. Jason, did you want to comment on this?
I have nothing to add. I agree with what's been said by you.
Okay. So I think that what I'm so far got on my notes is that there is some sill rot that can be repaired and individual broken panes can be replaced. Overall, these windows appear to be in good condition. They look like they need repainting, not replacing. These older windows are part of the historic fabric of the house and should be kept. A well-restored window will cost less than a new one and will last much longer. So does anybody want to add to that or alter that in any way?
Well, the only thing I would add to it is that, showing a couple of photographs doesn't speak for all the windows. So,
Yeah.
but I think we've discussed,
Photographs.
I think
Not a
we've
couple of
discussed.
I object to that, Lucy. There are not a few photographs.
Muted her.
Okay. I think, did we want to add more to this comment?
I think you said everything.
Okay. I think we can move on to the next, which is 126 Main Street. Now, we never got any, there isn't a view link to 126 Main Street. So
No, I asked you to pass it.
there's not much we can do about that one.
No,
So-
not until next week.
Okay, the next one is 2 Stone Alley. And Linda, do you know? I don't
I
see
don't know
any
what
new
they've done.
drawings. I don't see new drawings on this application unless they're not on the view link.
I haven't seen anything new at the meetings. I mean, I don't think Diane has either. So I have no idea what's happening with that these days.
And nobody from the owners' representatives are here. So
No.
I don't think there's anything new for us to review on this one, even though it's on our agenda.
You probably won't see anything new anyway when they do come back.
It's possible. So after that, we have 1 Cambridge Street, and that's down on Lower India. So, okay, here's Stone Alley. These look like the same old drawings we got
Yeah,
last
pretty
time.
much.
And this is Cambridge Street. So they did make some changes here, which is encouraging. They've really dropped it down from a 2.5 story, more or less, to a 1.5 story. I'll just to speed this up, I'm just going to read my comments and then I'll ask you guys what you want to add or change. This revision is moving in the right direction regarding the height and the scale. The proposed style is modeled after the new McKechnie building next door on South Water Street. HSAB feels that this style and details of the proposed building are too formal and too similar to the McKechnie building. The original building was much simpler in detail. Look to the Opera House building for simpler detailing. Most of the massing is appropriate, except the roof pitch should be reduced to 10 and 12. And the west cross gable overwhelms that roof. Alternate concepts for the west elevation should be considered. And I also noted that there's white clapboard proposed on this side and the opposite side, and the clapboard sidewall, the white painted clapboard sidewall should be changed to shingles. So anybody on the board want to comment on that? Happy to change that in any way needed.
I agree with the chair's comments.
I do too.
Me too.
Oh, come on, nothing?
No, I mean, it's nice to see that we're not having to fight about the 2-story, 2.5 story with all the dormers on the 3rd floor and all of that. It still feels towerish in that west elevation. And the pitches are steeper than most downtown. So I agree with the comment about bringing that down to a 10 or less.
So do you see when I've got the Opera House on the screen?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. So to me, this is similar, more similar in style to what the original building that they're tearing down looks like. So that's why I just mentioned this. It's a gable forward building in the neighborhood. It's got some quite simple rakes and detailing. It's not a Greek revival, which is what they were proposing here.
Well, that looks even Victorian with just the steep pitches and the somewhat more ornate details of the eave and other details there.
Yeah, certainly. So yeah, I think the roof pitch is too steep, the detailing is too strong. And I'm sure they can find, I know on South Water, there's, there are buildings that probably have this kind of detailing, but it's not what it's replacing. So, all right. So we're all more or less in agreement with what I've said?
Yeah, and I think that the suggestion of the Opera House is a good, inspiration for a similar style building that's of a larger scale, which is, obviously the intent is to increase the scale. So I think that's a good suggestion.
Great, thank you. Okay, I guess we can move on from that one down to 13 Fayette Street, which is right here. So these are the pictures of the existing building. And I think all we're doing on this is the roof walk.
We already
So
see this.
Sorry, Jason?
Didn't we already see this roof walk application?
We have seen this, but they have made changes. So here's what they're proposing compared to what was submitted, which is much better.
And the chimney's going?
The chimney, I think, is just hidden.
Okay.
It's just short
Chimney's in
chimney.
back. The chimney is in back, Nikki.
Yeah, it shows it on the ridge, but it must just be overwhelmed with the roof walk, so you don't see it anymore. So this has kind of a grayish trim. Can't tell exactly if it's, yeah, it's not Nantucket gray, but it's kind of a, anyway, I was just wondering, so how do we all, are there any concerns about this proposed?
Can you scroll down so you can see the rear? Do they have a rear view?
Yeah, yeah.
I just don't like it sitting on that dormer because it's just not.
Yeah.
I don't love it, but I'm not sure that bothers me that much. That just sort of happens in a lot of cases.
My concern is it being off center.
Well, yeah, that's a
that's
concern, but there's plenty of examples where they are off center, and I think she did show some. It happens also. First,
I think on
Right.
a house this size, you can get away with it.
what was that, Lucy?
I think on a house this size, you can get away with it being off center.
It's also, is this facing Union Street? Oh, it's
No.
Fayette. It's Fayette.
Faces my house.
Oh,
Okay, right.
Oh, okay.
So it's on a pretty narrow street, so you're not really going to be looking up and seeing this from the street level too much, I would expect.
But what is the problem with centering it? I mean, why couldn't it be centered?
Well, I think there was some concern. I think Diane, do you remember when this came up at the HDC? I thought that like the access was an issue. And straddling that, it's sort of, if you move it over to the side, it's going to be like half on the dormer. I'm not sure which is worse. Or if you move it to
The facing Fayette Street, the building is quite small. It's narrow, it's not on. So a roof walk, I always thought was too much for the house anyway. It went up fairly high, has a chimney, that the roof walk had the effect of being just stuck on for what? I don't know what their entrance is because I don't sit on it. But I haven't seen any way of getting through. I don't know. My feeling is that it's too much for the front of the building on Fayette Street, which is where you see it. You can see it going down Union also, but it's an infill building and all the rest of it. I would have suggested, I didn't think it was proper there. That doesn't tell you much to your answer, but.
Just wondering how visible really this is.
I don't, maybe I'm missing something, but I don't see indications of the chimney mass in this, in the interior
Oh, really?
or in the attic. So,
I see it on the first floor and I don't see it on the second floor
or the attic.
or the attic. So is this hiding a removal of the chimney?
Well, they need to tell us if they're going to remove the chimney. So here's the
I thought
fireplace.
I thought the original application was for the chimney and the roof work.
To
The
remove the
application
chimney?
to remove the chimney or to add one?
I thought they were adding one in the back, which involved their parking space.
I remember that. That was
Remember-
like a really tall, awkward
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember that one. Yeah, they had a third floor balcony wedged in a weird place before, which
Right.
they've
I think
changed.
that warrants a question. If that's what they're
I
trying to
agree.
do.
Yeah, is the chimney remaining?
Because why did they, I mean, they reduced the size, but why isn't it centered or?
I would recommend centering it and not having a skirt.
Well, I can't argue with that. That's sort of the normal approach, and especially in a building of this sort of style. I just know that the HGC has been fairly lax over the years about skirts. And the centering is just, I don't know. The dormer creates its own concerns in the back.
But that's the, is that any more visible? There's a whole bunch of asymmetry that happens over in the back anyway.
Yeah, can we see it from back here? There it is. It's kind of it's a skewed angle, so you'll yeah,
I
that is
feel like
visible.
even more, it makes it more visible once it straddles the dormer and then comes on this side of the dormer cheek. Whereas if it's centered, you probably wouldn't even, really see it as much.
I kind of agree with it. I'm fine. Here we go. All right. Okay, so no skirt and centered. I can't argue with that. Anybody
And we
else?
want to know, yeah, what about the chimney?
Yeah, and I'm going to ask, is the chimney remaining?
Do we
And
want
I
to see
would-
this back?
What, Lucy?
Do you want to see this back?
We want to see everything back.
Oh yeah, do you want to see it back? Yes. I usually try to put that in,
Oh.
but yeah, thank you. And I think that I would suggest that we have this one natural to weather.
Yes.
I agree.
Okay,
And you said no skirt, right?
no skirt and centered. We want it back. Anything else on this?
Nope.
So we'll move on to 7 East Lincoln driveway, which is here is the latest proposal. Do I see, yeah, Elizabeth, you're here?
Yeah, hi, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Good, thanks. So I don't think you wanted to see this again, but for some reason, this got hung up at the last HDC hearing, and I was a little taken aback because basically we're applying for a driveway, which people are allowed to have. And then I went back into Brand Point, and almost 90% of the aprons out there, that the people that have an apron, as they are now required by the planning board, is Belgian block. So in terms of material, we're really, and you guys didn't really have an issue with that last time. Lucy, you just wanted to ascertain that we didn't have a raised border, which we don't.
Okay, yeah.
So, and it's 8 feet wide. Most driveways, like the minimum, there would be like 10. So it's really more like a kind of like to understate it rather than making it big. And then, we broke up the stone at the front door just to make sure we get through. But it was surprising. They have so many applications to go through and to get hung up, on a driveway with materials that are very appropriate. Doesn't seem like a good use of anybody's time. And I can share with you if you want. I took some pictures if you need to see pictures, if you have an issue with this application, which I don't think you should.
Well, I'm gonna just look, I'm looking at the, as you probably see too, our previous comments. We suggested no Belgian block. I'm not sure if these were us.
It was the raised, like you didn't want a raised side.
Well,
And
no Belgian block.
Lucy's issue.
I don't remember about the apron being flush with grade. That should be anyway. I think these are Holly's comments. Materials should be toned down and less formal. Belgian block should be cobblestone, and bluestone should be a more natural shape and color stone. Those were our comments from the last application.
But they were written comments. That's not the conversation I recall that we had during the meeting. I have a pretty good memory.
Well, that's what we submitted to Holly, and that's what she
I-
read. So it's in
I
the
guess so.
minutes.
And
And
can I
then-
share my screen?
Let me finish what I'm saying here.
Yeah.
So Val said this is more formal than anything else in the street. Nobody else has a patio. This patio seems like a minor thing. It's just a small stoop from what I see.
Exactly. Exactly.
Diane said the front patio and Belgian block driveway should be eliminated. It's too formal. And Abby says she thinks it's too formal for the neighborhood. John thought it was fine, and Ray said most of the board wants a reduction in the formality of the driveway and front patio. So that's my take on what took place at the last meeting through the minutes. Now, I know you're going to show us some other examples.
Yeah.
Probably.
And you can see, so the revision that we made here is that we broke up that's front stoop area, and then so that it's not, doesn't read like a patio. It's and then I just want to substantiate with what the neighbors have with that collected.
When you say the neighbors, I just want to understand that these are the neighbors on East Lincoln or Grant Point.
So some on East Lincoln, and then the neighborhood.
All right,
Wall
so
Street.
I'll stop sharing so you can.
Okay. So on the upper left, that's the garage under construction, and that's the house under construction.
Mhm.
So, once you imagine like the stepping stones, the Belgian block, two-dimensional, it's on the ground, it's not an elevation. I think on a day-to-day basis, you're not really looking at driveways. Only I do. The house on the right, that's a house on Wall Street that has like stepping stones. So that's kind of, I felt like it was a similar look, if you look at the stairs, if you look at the scale.
Which
So
house
that
are you
might be-
referring to?
The one right here to the right.
Okay, yep.
And then these tie tracks, our clients really wanted to have a little bit of grass in between. They have little kids. They don't want it to read like a big driveway. So that's why they wanted as small as possible, which was the 8 feet wide, the apron as required. We don't have a choice. We need to have it. So these were 3 examples here side by side of, tire tracks in block in the neighborhood. So a couple of them are on Jefferson and another one on Halbert. Another one, the one with the two tracks just below, that's a neighbor across the street on Lincoln, that directly opposite my client's house.
And what is
and then
that
this
driveway
other-
material made of, Elizabeth?
That one is shell. But I
Yeah.
think if you just kind of take a step back, the effect is very similar, right? Because it's sort of a light colored material with grass in between. And then I'm showing you the Belgian block. I mean, I felt like maybe that was enough. Like I could have gone on. Almost 90% of the aprons out there are Belgian block. It's not
So
cobblestone.
show us the ones that are on East Lincoln.
So down here, so that first page, on the bottom left, that's the neighbor across the street.
Okay.
So that apron. On the next page, I have the first 2 on the first 3 on Halbert. The next one is on Willard. All the ones on the bottom are Lincoln and Walsh. And
Well,
then,
I think
yeah,
it's
and
worth.
then the walk. Yeah, go.
I'd like to make a distinction between, certainly Holbert and probably Walsh, although maybe not, but definitely Holbert and other areas, Jefferson certainly. About, I don't think that I would qualify Holbert as similar neighbors, because East Lincoln does have a little bit of a less of a formal feel. than
Right,
Holbert.
but this here, that's Willard.
Okay.
And this one is Lincoln. And then there was this neighbor is also Lincoln. It's directly next to my client, and this one is Lincoln.
Okay. Okay.
So you would ask us to not be like everybody else. And then this is the walkways that I found. So the up there, I told you 10 East Lincoln, 12 East Lincoln, Wall Street, Willard, Eastern. So that, I think we fit in. I think we're appropriate. I think it's just people are reacting to a 2-dimensional drawing like it's a 3-dimensional drawing.
Well, I think we all understand what you're proposing. I don't think we're reacting in an odd way. I think we're mostly in the board, the HGC was concerned about the formality of especially the bluestone. To me, the rigid sort of square cut bluestone. I'm going to ask you to stop sharing so that I can bring the plans back up.
Mickey, is it possible for you to just take a tour down the street?
Yeah. All right. Let me get to the screen. So there you are. Let me find.
We're with Nikki.
Right. Oh, yeah, okay. So what was the address here? 7 East Lincoln.
We should go out to Quaid.
All right, here's where it intersects. I guess it's Walsh, yeah.
And that's bluestone right there. Square pieces.
Yeah, where's it? Where is it?
Right there, bluestone.
It's sort of like a slate.
No,
Looks-
it's bluestone. It's bluestone. It just leaches iron over time. That's what the brown is. It's not slate. It's bluestone.
Okay. Shell or pebble.
But
Let's
that's not
keep in
allowed, as
mind-
you know. We need to have an apron.
Where is the site? Is it one of these houses?
I'm a little confused, but keep
Yeah.
going. I think maybe it's that house you just, that's an apron there, isn't it?
So here's that shell, the one that you showed us earlier.
Yeah, and there's a bluestone walkway, solid bluestone walkway. So that's the neighbor right across the street. Look, go back. Right here.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's a Belgian block apron, bluestone, bordered by Belgian block. Also retaining wall in the front, big stairs, masonry stairs, big landing. That's directly across from my client.
Okay. I'll just keep going backwards. All right, getting probably less and less as we go down here.
Yeah, we would just pass that little apron.
So certainly gets
There's
more
a brick
formal the
apron.
closer you get to Wall Street.
It looks like almost all of the driveways are shell and a lot of them don't have aprons. Some of them do that have the Belgian block.
Mhm.
But
There's-
Angus, you know that we are required to have an apron, right? You
Yes,
understand that?
there's just something that is more formal about the Belgian block versus cobblestone is like in the Brant
Yeah,
Point.
but we don't
area.
see cobblestone here. It's not existent.
It's a way to get the apron without it being as formal as the Belgian block.
Okay, here's your original submission.
I think too that even though it might seem simpler to have the grass in between the bluestone or the Belgian block, it's very contrived. I mean, it's very formal and it's very precise in order to have that effect. And I think that that's what makes it feel more formal, even though it's the same materials that are used in other places. But I think that, if they're little kids, they're the ridges of the stone that stick up from the grass, which I think, honestly would be more detrimental than shell that's flush with the grass. As far as the driveway tracks. And I think that would fit in more with the neighborhood. As far as the walkway, I think, if you really wanted to do the bluestone, to do it in a pattern that's sort of broken up and less structured. A full path without the grass strips and different sizes and shapes of it. I think if you wanted stone would be a way to do that and it wouldn't read so formally.
Yeah, Elizabeth, I hear what you're saying about some of the neighbors, but mostly what we're seeing in the neighborhood is aprons, not so much driveways. And, you know, I don't think we can object too much to a Belgian block apron because you're right, they're right across the street. I think it's the driveway.
But then the driveway of my client, like the little track piece is 17 feet. It's not like for 2 cars, it's just really for 1 car. And, you know, in the summertime, like there's a car on top of that track, you know?
Yeah, but that's, I mean, that's, come on. So the, I think that what concerns me about the Belgian block is the formality that it proposes compared to the neighbors, compared to Shell, compared to alternatives. And I don't think I would personally argue with a Belgian block apron. Not that I would prefer it, but it's hard to argue against it. I think I'd like to see a different driveway material. And
So would you deny this application? Actually, you would deny this application.
if you're asking if I were on the HTC, I would suggest you come back with revisions for less formal material. And I'm not.
What would be the procedure if my client said, no, this is what I want? It would be like application denied?
Let me keep going on. So the front walkway, you're proposing the blue stone. And you're right, there are other blue stones. I don't really love it. And I think it's probably more formal than I would want. The one that I really question is over here to the left of the garage. What is this purpose of this walkway over here and behind the building?
I was just gonna ask that.
It's just, you know, it's gonna be hard to grow lawn there. It's you know, this is a very wet area. It's elevation 3 from sea level. So they're gonna use that for access, maybe put their bikes back there. So want to have, you know, better than.
But this is grass back here along the back of the building. I mean, it's not gonna be any harder to grow it up front than it is in the back.
Right, but you're not confined to a small passage that's gonna get that impact.
Well, okay, so my concern about this is that this whole like rigid, you know, linear square pattern surrounding the garage totally adds to the formality. I would much prefer to see this.
Okay, so the comments are getting
Grass.
deeper. We're going deeper into the comments.
Well, Elizabeth, I'm not sure where you're going with this. I'm just trying to tell you what our comments, which is what we're supposed to do, is to give you our comments regarding this application.
Yeah.
So what is it that concerns you?
I just feel like it's overreach. Like we're doing something that's in the neighborhood. I'm showing you all these walkways that exist. The neighbors have them. Bluestone is there. You should say, look, it's happening in the neighborhood. It's not what I would want in my house, but in this context, it's appropriate. And
Well,
that should be the comments.
You know, that's okay. We're going to disagree on this, and that's our job, and that's your job. So that's how that usually pans out. So you'll have your opportunity at the HTC, but our job is to provide comments on what we think.
Okay,
So
I'm holding hope for Lucy. Maybe Lucy will have something great to say.
Well, no, I do have, Elizabeth, I do have one question. And, well, first of all, I don't mind the walkway stone to the front door. But to the left of your Belgian block apron there, you've got a wider stone area enclosed by what looks like privet. And I'd like to know why that is there and what for reason. And the reason why I'm asking this is, as we all know, there's that example down in Easton Street near the triangle, or whatever you want to call it, down in that area, is that someone has a generator right up against the street and they have privet around it. Now, I walk down there every morning and we all know that privet is not evergreen. And how that ever was allowed and how even the homeowner would want to have that eyesore visible from the street. So that is why I'm asking what is going on with that mini patio with the hedge around it.
So in any generator, any air conditioning unit would need to be outside the building setback, which is basically at the bottom of the stairs of the main house. And then it's right along the back line. So there would be no structure like that. We did think of maybe putting a movable little unit for recyclable enclosed by privet in that area.
So it could be conceivably be garbage area.
Yeah,
That's what
recycling,
you're saying.
recycling in a wooden bin that's removable.
Okay, all right. Well, you answered my question. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Lucy. Angus, did you have anything more you wanted to add to that?
Well, I was just focused on the driveway and the path up to the house. No, I didn't think that the rest of the walkways were part of the conversation, but I think that all that, as you said, adds to the formality.
Yeah, I think, you know, we've seen other stone walkways. I'm gonna say I don't love bluestone, but I can't argue against it because the neighbors seem to have that too. I think, as I probably already said, my concern is the driveway material and that strip of stone along the left of the garage.
Okay. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thanks, Elizabeth. All right. I think we're done with the agenda.
I do think that those individual stones with it's really got to be meticulously maintained. If there's an issue with grass, you know, having those little strips between the bluestone and between the pieces of Belgian block is about the most challenging thing to get to grow properly. I think that's what makes it feel formal. All the other examples of the bluestone were flat out paths. They weren't, you know, perfectly rectangle, you know, stones with grass in between.
Well, they were mostly solid, you know, probably grouted in, you know, cement.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't know. I think that this, you know, there's a reluctance to try to see neighborhood go more and more formal. And I think that's what I'm concerned with. East Lincoln it's not Holbert Avenue. I don't even think it's Walsh.
No, and even Holbert Avenue is part of Brant Point, which is, you know, it's beach and shouldn't be so formal.
Yeah.
And all these materials are, you know, on Brant Point, but they're not done in such an articulated way.
Yeah, I think it's just upping the game, and we're trying to keep it at on the, you know, the level that it's at so far. And I don't think Elizabeth agrees with this for some reason.
I think that what she's got is between the stone walkway, all the Belgian block, and the stone walkway on the other side of the driveway. She's got 3 strips, long strips
Yeah.
of one material. And so that to me is a good enough reason to have farther in from the apron to have it broken up with cobblestone.
Yeah, it's too much. I mean, I don't get this whole thing to the left. This could easily be grass. And I don't see why that needs to be stone.
Well, if it's so wet, wouldn't you want the drainage of having grass?
Exactly. And this stone, fine, that's a pathway to their side door and to the front door. I get those. So I'm not going to argue against that. So I'm going to suggest that the driveway material be, so the apron, fine.
But you see where the apron ends? It's where those dark lines sort of intersect the dot dash line.
Yep.
And then it's infill beyond what is really required with more Belgian block to be able to create the curved. Do you know what I mean? Like the apron's the apron, but then there's more Belgian block.
Yeah, it's all
Right.
Belgian
So I would
block.
have the minimum depth of Belgian block. And
Yeah.
go
And
from
then
there.
what after that? I mean,
Shell. I mean, that's the predominant material on that street.
Yeah, shell.
okay, I think that's absolutely appropriate.
I don't like that mini patio thing for the trash.
Either, I don't
Yeah.
know, but it's part of the, and you're right, Lucy, you're gonna see that all winter long.
Yeah,
Right. Can I ask a question?
Sure, go ahead.
Got enough time at the garage up at the top right corner? there's those two lines coming out. Is that going to hide trash?
Guessing that's probably a stoop of some sort for, it looks like an overhang on the side of the garage and maybe, I think it's an entrance to the garage.
Okay, because I have an objection about that stepping thing going all the way around the garage down
Yeah.
to the street where it's double at the beginning for some reason.
Yeah,
I see no help in those stairs coming down. And why do you need all those stones coming 4 feet wide?
yeah, here,
Coming down, where are you going?
yeah.
They don't, it doesn't seem to accept one to the other, to me.
Well, I think we're agreeing with that side strip to the far left is unnecessary. That should be grass. So.
Right.
um,
So I am surprised that it was mentioned, I believe, before, but maybe they, not important, I guess, but it is. 28 years ago, East Lincoln was a simple little street with a bunch of houses sort of tossed on there.
Small ones.
And yeah,
It's a different place now.
Yeah,
I guess it is, Angus.
Everywhere is.
But I don't see why that 4-foot strip should come all the way out to the front of that planting. I mean, it's a trail to nowhere.
mhm.
Right.
If it were coming all the way around to the front porch, that would be one thing, but it's kind of just stopping there at the hedge.
Yeah, and then then you're on grass anyway. So what have you gained?
Yeah, I don't get that.
Sort of dead ends. It's essentially a big fat border for the planting bed on the front. Anyway, all right, I think we've dealt with this one. Anything else anybody wants to talk about? I
At the
wanna-
end of our agenda?
We are, I want to at some point, and I think I'll wait till Brooke gets back, but at some point we've got to talk about the future of, if we're going to move on beyond remote meetings, Zoom meetings. And I know, Diane, you're struggling with this with the HDC's meetings.
Right, we listened to the other night, or maybe it was Thursday. We were thinking of the straight on, one-on-one, the hybrid, and total Zoom. I think we're tending towards the hybrid because it gives more people, to me, it gives more people advantage to come to the meeting, see what's going on, add their thoughts, which is what we're supposed to be doing. And if the chairman is up in Vermont skiing, or Hawaii vacationing, or Florida having another one, then he can come on and run the meeting. Because interesting enough, when this first started, however long ago it was, I was told by the town lawyer through Erica that I could not share anything because I was on the hybrid. Now, funnily enough, if we start a hybrid, I could share, and so could